You think you can tell my brother what to do? He yelled, his voice echoing off the marble walls. Then, thud. My suitcase hit the floor. My clothes scattered like my dignity. I didn't cry. I just stood there watching him pant like he'd achieved something powerful. Hi everyone, my name is Ava Merritt, I'm 32. And that night I realized something terrifying. Sometimes the people you build your life around start demolishing it brick by brick and still expect you to say thank you. Have you ever watched someone destroy the version of you they once claimed to love? I had cooked dinner, handled the bills, even helped his brother pay off his car loan. But when I finally asked that same brother to pay a share of utilities, my husband decided I had disrespected his family. His mother clapped from the living room. Throw her out then. Let's see how far she goes without your money. He didn't hesitate. He tossed my suitcase again, this time harder, and said, Leave, Ava. And don't you dare come crawling back when reality hits. The house smelled of burnt garlic and anger. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. My hands trembled as I picked up my clothes. He didn't help, just watched, arms crossed, jaw clenched like I was a stranger who'd overstayed. Then something inside me went quiet. Not weak, just still. Because right there, surrounded by the people I had fed, supported, and protected, I realized I wasn't losing a home. I was escaping a cage. I zipped my suitcase, looked up, and smiled softly. You're right, I said. Let's see how far you go without me. The way his eyes flickered, a mix of confusion and fear, told me he didn't expect calmness. He expected begging. But instead I opened the door and stepped into the night, the cold air slicing my cheeks, the street lights reflecting off my tears like tiny knives. Behind me the door slammed shut. In front of me the world finally opened. And he had no idea what was coming next. The next morning I woke up in my old car parked behind a gas station. The air was cold enough to sting and my phone buzzed with notifications. None from him. Only bills, promotions, and a message from his brother. Didn't think you'd actually leave, drama queen. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then I whispered to myself, no, I didn't leave. I was freed. I washed my face in the station's restroom sink, tied my hair with a scrunchie I'd found at the bottom of my purse, and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't broken, just unfinished. By noon I was at a small diner on the outskirts of town, sipping black coffee, scrolling job listings. The waitress, an older woman with tired eyes and kind hands, noticed my half-zipped suitcase and said, Bad night. Bad marriage, I replied. She nodded slowly. Honey, bad nights end. Bad marriages take you with them. Something about her tone stayed in my chest like a song that wouldn't leave. I left her a tip larger than I could afford and stepped outside, where the world smelled of rain and redemption. That afternoon I found a tiny apartment over a bookstore. The landlord didn't ask many questions and I didn't offer any answers. I spent that night on the bare floor, my suitcase for a pillow, listening to the city hum through cracked windows. Across town I knew exactly what was happening. His mother would be cooking dinner, his brother laughing on the couch, and my husband realizing the laundry hadn't folded itself. The bills weren't paid. The refrigerator wasn't restocked. And for the first time maybe, just maybe, they'd notice the weight of what I carried every day without complaint. I smiled at the thought, tracing raindrops on the window pane with my finger. Let them enjoy what life's really like without me, I whispered. Then I opened my laptop, created a new folder, and typed its title in bold letters. Rebuild, Step 1. Because this time I wasn't starting over. I was starting right. Days blurred into one another, but not the way they used to. For the first time in years I woke up without someone shouting filling the kitchen. The silence was mine now, soft, warm, alive. I spent my mornings helping at the bookstore downstairs. Mr. Coleman, the owner, was an old man who smelled like paper and peppermint. When I told him I used to manage a small marketing firm, he raised an eyebrow. Then help me get this place online, he said. And just like that I had purpose again. I worked late into the evenings, sipping cheap tea and building his website on my old laptop. Every keystroke felt like therapy, a quiet reminder that I could create something that didn't fall apart. Meanwhile my phone started buzzing again. At first it was just a text from my husband. Are you okay? Then another. Mom's been asking if you'll come back. And finally, we can talk, Ava. Let's fix this. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead I looked at my hands, the same hands he once called useless. now bringing an entire business to life. Mr. Coleman noticed me smiling one afternoon and asked, "Good news?" I nodded. "Yeah. I think I'm finally remembering who I am." He chuckled softly. "Sometimes you gotta lose everything to see what's really yours." Later that night, as I walked home through the narrow alley behind the store, I passed a flickering streetlight. Under its glow, I caught my reflection in a puddle, tired eyes, wind-tangled hair, and yet, peace. The next morning, I received a screenshot from a mutual friend. It was a Facebook post. My husband's brother had written, "Women always think they can survive without men. Let's see how long this one lasts." I stared at it for a long time. And instead of anger, I felt something colder. Something patient. Because they didn't know that while they were mocking me publicly, I was quietly building something that would one day make them wish they hadn't. That night, I sat on the floor of my small apartment with a cup of tea that had gone cold. The city outside buzzed, but my thoughts were louder. Their Facebook post replayed in my mind word by word, not as an insult but as fuel. I opened my laptop again and searched, "How to register a small business." By morning I had a name, Merit Media Solutions. Sounded simple, professional, but to me it meant rebirth. I used the same skills I'd once used to build my husband's family business. Except this time I built something for myself. I started small, freelancing from coffee shops, designing ads, managing clients online. Each invoice I sent felt like reclaiming another piece of myself. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon my phone rang, my husband's number. I stared at it, then let it ring out. He called again. And again. Finally, a message appeared. "Ava, can you come home? Mom's sick. She's asking for you." I almost laughed. The same woman who called me worthless now wanted me back in that house. But I didn't reply. That night I walked to the bookstore rooftop, where the city lights stretched endlessly beneath the stars. I whispered, "They're not my family anymore." The wind answered with silence, and for once it didn't feel empty. A week later, I got a message from one of my husband's old clients. "Hi Ava, we heard you used to handle our campaigns. The numbers have dropped since you left. Can we work with you directly?" My hands trembled, but my voice didn't when I replied, "Of course." Within a month, 3 of his biggest clients left him for me. And that's when I realized, revenge doesn't always wear fire. Sometimes it looks like success dressed in calm. I shut my laptop, closed my eyes, and smiled to myself. Because now, the same man who threw me out was about to find out what life without me really cost. It started with a single client leaving his company. Then another. And another. At first, I thought it was coincidence, until I received an email forwarded by one of them. Honestly, the client had written to my ex, "We only signed with you because Ava made it work. She was the brain behind everything." I stared at that line until my eyes blurred. The world had gone quiet except for the hum of my old refrigerator. For years I'd been told I was lucky to have him. Turns out he'd been lucky to have me. Soon my new company, Merit Media Solutions, started gaining traction. I hired 2 part-time assistants and rented a small studio near downtown. The walls were white, the light was perfect, and every corner smelled like coffee and ambition. Meanwhile, his calls became desperate. First, "Ava, we need to talk." Then, "Please, can we meet? I made mistakes." Finally, "You're ruining everything." That one made me laugh. I was ruining everything? No, I was just reclaiming what he'd taken. One evening, I received a video message from his brother, the same one who had mocked me. He filmed from their living room, the walls stripped bare, the TV gone. "Are you happy now?" he sneered. "We're drowning. All our clients left. Mom's health bills are piling up." I paused the video, studied his angry face, and whispered, "Happy? No. But maybe this is fair." That night, I opened the same folder on my laptop. Rebuild, Step 1. I added a new subfolder titled Step 5, Redemption. Inside it, I drafted my next plan. A new campaign aimed at women rebuilding their lives after divorce. Each post, each story, each image would be proof that strength doesn't have to scream. It can whisper and still shake the earth. As I worked, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my ex. "You think this is over?" I smiled to myself, typing without even looking up. "It's not over," I whispered. "It's beginning." By the time winter came, Merit Media had its first billboard downtown. A clean white design with the words, built by women who refused to crawl back. I didn't add my name. I didn't need to. You would recognize the style instantly. That same week, I received an email from a business magazine requesting an interview. They wanted to feature my story, a woman who rose after being thrown out. I almost declined. I didn't want pity. But then I thought of every woman who had been told she was nothing without her husband. So I said yes. The article went viral overnight. By morning, my inbox was flooded with messages. Women sharing their stories, thanking me, asking how I found the strength. And buried among them, a single email from him. You humiliated me publicly. Are you proud? You could have helped me rebuild instead of turning everyone against me. I stared at his words for a long time. Then I wrote back. You destroyed me privately. I rebuilt publicly. Fair trade. I hit send and felt something inside me exhale. 2 days later, his mother called from an unknown number. Her voice trembled. Ava, he's not doing well. Everything's gone. Please, talk to him. For a moment, old instincts kicked in. The part of me that wanted to fix things. But then I remembered that night. The suitcase. The laughter. The door slamming shut. No, I said softly. This time he'll have to learn to fix himself. When I hung up, I walked to the window. Snowflakes were falling, slow and silent, covering the streets like a clean page. That night, I held my cup of tea and whispered to my reflection, you made it out. The woman staring back no longer looked lost. She looked certain. I didn't know it then, but poetic justice was about to arrive, quietly wrapped in a lawyer's envelope. The envelope arrived on a gray Tuesday morning, thick, official, and stamped with my former last name. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity has a way of finding courage. Inside was a letter from his lawyer. Your ex-husband, Daniel Merritt, has filed for financial relief, citing that you unjustly influenced former clients to leave his company. He demands settlement or mediation. I laughed. Quietly, the kind that hurts your ribs. He was actually trying to sue me for the success I'd built from the ashes he created. But then I saw the attachment. Bank records, contracts, old emails, my own proposals with his signature still visible. And suddenly I realized something crucial. Everything I'd built for his business was already mine by contribution. Legally. Documented. So instead of fear, I felt something else. Clarity. That afternoon I met with a lawyer of my own. A calm woman in a gray suit named Morgan Tate. She read the papers silently, then looked up with the faintest smile. He's walked into his own trap, she said. You built the foundation. You hold the evidence. We won't just defend, we'll counterclaim. A few weeks later, the court hearing began. He sat across the table looking smaller than I remembered. His eyes darted from me to the judge, to the folder in Morgan's hand. When she presented the documents, the invoices I'd signed, the emails I'd written, the bank transfers I'd initiated, I watched his shoulders sink lower and lower. The judge finally turned to him. Mr. Merritt, it seems you benefited from her work for years without compensation. Are you sure you want to proceed with this claim? He mumbled something under his breath, but I caught one word. No. When it was over, I walked past him without stopping. For the first time I felt no anger. Just freedom, the quiet kind. Outside, the wind lifted my hair as I stepped into the sunlight. The past had finally exhaled. But one more surprise waited for him. One that would finish the story perfectly. A week after the hearing, I mailed one final letter. Not from a lawyer, not from the court. Just from me. It was neatly typed on plain white paper, enclosed in a small envelope with no return address. Instead I wrote, you once told me I couldn't survive without you. You were right, I didn't. I thrived. The world you thought would bury me became the soil that grew me. I signed it simply Ava. No threats. No insults. Just truth, the kind that burns slow. That evening I attended a charity gala in the city. Merit Media Solutions had been invited as a sponsor. Something I never imagined back when I was sleeping in my car behind that gas station. The room shimmered with light, violins played softly, and people I'd once dreamed of meeting now greeted me by name. As I stood near the balcony, I noticed a familiar face among the guests, Daniel. He looked older, thinner, a shadow of the man who once threw my suitcase across a marble floor. Our eyes met. For a brief second, time froze. He started to walk toward me, but I didn't move. When he finally stopped a few feet away, he whispered, "You won." I smiled, not cruelly, not triumphantly, just peacefully. No, Daniel, I said. I learned. Then I turned away, walked back into the golden lit room, and disappeared into the sound of music and conversation. Outside, snow began to fall again, just like that night months ago when I'd whispered my first promise to myself. Rebuild. Now, every snowflake looked like a page closing softly on an old story. Later that night, as I sat in my apartment, no longer bare but filled with warmth, laughter, and the faint scent of jasmine candles, I opened my laptop. I clicked into my old folder, Rebuild, Step 1, and added a final note at the bottom. Step 8, Closure. Some homes burn quietly. Some rebuild beautifully. I chose both. I saved the file, leaned back, and exhaled. No anger. No noise. Just peace. The most expensive kind of revenge there is.